My best friend once said he'd always have my back. I frowned. Why would you stand behind me? He clapped a hand over my mouth. Don't ask. Some pain is just part of the process. Lately, Alan had been tossing me cold looks. We'd just finished dinner when I casually wiped my mouth with a napkin. He scoffed. Once is enough. You trying to look that delicate in front of everyone? Huh. Here we go again. I held in my temper and slowly put the napkin down. Did I do something to upset you? He stiffened. No. Then you're just looking for a fight? That wasn't an accusation, it was how I genuinely felt. A week ago, we'd planned to catch a movie. When I got to his dorm building, he still hadn't come down. Waiting got boring and I happened to spot Nanso, my roommate, playing basketball at the small court nearby. Yo, Orlando. Waiting for Alan again? Nanso hollered first. Alan and I had been classmates since high school. We scored about the same and ended up getting into the same university. Different majors meant separate dorms, but they were close enough. Except for class, we were practically glued at the hip. Naturally, my roommates all knew Alan by now. Initially, I didn't want to be joined at the hip 24/7, and I had gently brought it up. Maybe, we don't need to eat lunch together every day? Meeting up between distant classrooms took time, and I found it inefficient. His face fell instantly. I missed the expression, was just happy he agreed. Great. Tomorrow I won't wait. You can eat with your roommates. They don't want to eat with me. He pressed his lips together. It's fine. I'll go alone. Then he turned and walked off. His back looked terribly lonely, like a puppy driven out of a pack. I tossed and turned that night, guilt gnawing at me. Alan had always been reserved, a bit cold. Probably didn't fit in with his roommates. I was his closest friend. And yet I pushed him away. Back in high school, he'd spent so much time tutoring me in physics. Without him, I might not have made it into this university. And now I was just, sigh. The next morning, I ran to his dorm at the crack of dawn. He came down and frowned, then brightened the moment he saw me. What are you doing here? Having breakfast with you. I slung an arm around his shoulders. I was being rash yesterday. Alan had thin skin. He instantly averted his gaze, cheeks tinged with pink. By the way, where are your roommates? I asked, determined. I should talk to them. They can't just ignore you. Orlando, Alan practically dragged me away. Forget it. Let's just eat. I blinked, then understood. Boys had pride too. After that, I doubled down on being good to him, to ease his loneliness. I even insisted on picking him up before the movie. Now, watching Nanso bounce the ball, I clicked my tongue. Alan's always so slow. Nanso smirked. Want to shoot a few rounds while you wait? His words tickled the old itch in my hands. It was hot, nearly dusk, but the air still scorched. Sweating wouldn't hurt. After all, we just go back after the movie. I could shower later. One game turned into another. I forgot the time completely, assuming Alan would call me when he arrived. But after nearly passing out from exhaustion, I still hadn't heard from him. Wiping sweat from my jaw with a tissue, I told Nanso, I'm done. Gonna find Alan. I turned and stopped cold. There he was. Alan stood outside the chain-link fence, eyes locked on me. A backpack slung over one shoulder. You didn't call me? I walked toward him. His face was blank. Did you even remember the movie? Of course. Under the soft glow of the street lamp, I saw the sweat beading on his nose, catching the light. How long have you been standing there? I asked. Alan raised his wrist and glanced at his watch. 19 minutes and 32 seconds. Awkwardness flickered through me. I let out a sheepish laugh. Wow, that long. I gestured forward. Let's hurry, we can still make it. I'm not going. He didn't budge. Don't force yourself if you didn't want to go. What? I tried to brush it off. I do want to go. No. You want to play basketball. Now I was getting annoyed. Why are you mad? Go back to your game, he said coolly. I'm leaving. I stood frozen in place, dumbfounded. What did I even do? He saw me. Why didn't he call out to me? Like he's the only one who can hold a grudge? 2 days passed. I didn't message him or wait outside his dorm. He didn't reach out either. I couldn't focus in class. Was this it? Were we seriously done over a game of basketball? It had only been 20 minutes, for crying out loud. Suddenly, the image of Alan's sweat-drenched face flashed through my mind. I froze. Right? He waited 20 minutes for me. Why did it suddenly feel like I was at fault too? My thoughts were a mess when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I snuck a glance at the teacher, then carefully pulled it out. It was from Alan. You there? Lunch? Together? The nerve. Did he really just order me? What am I, a dog he can call and dismiss whenever he likes? And I'm not even his boyfriend. What gives him the right to snap at me like that? With a temper as bad as his and a heart that petty, there's no way he's finding a wife. I furiously typed, no. I waited. Long enough to want to put my phone away. Finally, Alan replied. Sorry. I was being sensitive. My roommates bail on me like that all the time. I thought you were doing the same. They'll promise to save me a seat, and then forget once they're off doing their own thing. The fire in my chest was doused with a bucket of cold water. What kind of life was he living in that dorm? Just like that, all the irritation vanished. I forgot he even snapped at me. But it didn't take long before he was sulking again. After class, one of my roommates asked me to help carry his water bottle back to the dorm. On the way, I got thirsty and, careful to avoid touching the rim, poured a small sip of water from it. I never liked drinking from anyone else's cup. Alan's expression darkened. That's not your bottle. I frowned. If it were mine, why would I awkwardly pour from a distance like that? So someone else drank from it? Yeah, I replied absent-mindedly. Alan's tone turned biting. And here I thought you were a germaphobe. What happened to that? And just like that he was off again. I let it go that time. But now this was the third time. I had to say something. You got a problem with me? Always trying to pick a fight. I'm just stating facts. He was calm. Too calm. I let out a laugh, cold, bitter. Was it my fault he had such a problem with me? I wiped my mouth and he made it into a thing. I stormed off, but when I got to the corner of the stairwell, I noticed Alan trailing behind. Just far enough to not be walking with me, but close enough to follow. He wasn't getting forgiveness until he apologized properly. Nonso and Taito were coming down the stairs, laughing and bumping into each other. Orlando! What a coincidence! Let's grab some hot water together. There was only one working water dispenser on the first floor. Perfect for making instant noodles. My gaze dropped to the multiple kettles in their hands. All the dorm's kettles? Look at you two responsible men, I joked. I took one and placed it under the dispenser. Nonso and Taito queued behind me. Not sure what they were talking about, but it got heated. Suddenly, Nonso lost balance and crashed into my back, his chin slamming into my shoulder. I staggered from the impact, barely catching myself, when someone grabbed my wrist and yanked me to the side. I looked up and met Alan's stormy face, black as a thundercloud. What the hell? Why'd you pull me? I snapped. His grip stung. I was just about to shout at him when he muttered, teeth clenched. Don't let other guys stand behind you. What's wrong with people standing behind me? I genuinely didn't get it. So you think you can stand behind me? Alan blinked. His ears turned bright red. Then he mumbled, yeah. What? I gave him a sideways look like he'd lost his mind and picked up the kettle. I'm heading up. My two roommates gave Alan a look, part amusement, part suspicion. Gossip radiated off them. No doubt they were thinking something was going on. I needed to explain sometime that Alan was just a little nuts. But harmless. Mostly. Speaking of which, said Nutjob was right behind me again. He rushed to my side, anxious. Orlando, listen, only I can stand behind you. What does that even mean? I was out of patience. Always picking fights, now getting possessive about who stands where? Seriously? He faltered, but his face was dead serious. I'll always stand behind you. My anger evaporated into thin air. How was I supposed to argue with that? Was this some kind of emotional damage control? A subtle apology for all the drama from the past few days? I sighed and patted his shoulder. Bro, only I understand your metaphors. You do? His eyes widened in surprise. Of course, I said confidently, even thumped my chest for effect. A strange spark lit up in his eyes. Then, can I? His gaze dropped meaningfully to my lower half. I followed it, puzzled. He was looking at my butt. My mind went blank. Wait, what did his loyalty declaration have to do with my ass? Dude, why are you looking at my butt while pledging loyalty? I blurted it out before I could stop myself. Alan's face flushed, then paled, then flushed again in waves. It took him a good moment to recover before he asked, cautiously, pledging loyalty? Exactly, I said, all understanding and benevolence. You just didn't know how to apologize, right? So you said you'd always stand behind me, have my back. That's your way of making it up to me. Alan's face turned ashen. His jaw clenched tight, the grinding of molars loud enough to hear. That's not the reaction I expected. Did I misunderstand something? I hesitated, confused. So it wasn't an apology? Then what did you mean? Alan opened his mouth, then shut it. After a long pause, he turned away with a cold face and walked off. My head throbbed. He was giving me the cold shoulder again. That's it. Unless he gives me a proper, serious apology, 90-degree bow included, I'm not forgiving him this time. 3 strikes is more than enough. He's not getting a 4th. Alan had changed. He never used to be this petty. Lying awake in bed, my thoughts tumbled like a storm. The more I thought about it, the more aggrieved I felt. Why did he think he could treat me like this? I went out of my way to be kind, patient, understanding, and what did I get in return? A cold shoulder and endless nitpicking. Scoffing bitterly, I grabbed my phone and typed. Not having lunch together tomorrow. If you can't apologize for what you said before, I'm done talking to you. Only after hitting send did the tight knot in my chest loosen slightly. But Alan didn't reply. Didn't even show up. At lunch, Nonso looked surprised. You're not eating with Alan today? I'm with you guys. Taito raised an eyebrow. Did you two fight last night? I hesitated. Not exactly. Nonso and Taito exchanged a glance. Nonso looked apologetic. Is it because I accidentally ran into you yesterday? Martin, another roommate, blinked. Wait, what happened yesterday? Then he turned to Nonso. You bumped into Orlando, what's that got to do with Alan? If anyone should be mad, it's Orlando. The silence that followed was thick. Nonso looked at me. Were you mad though? I didn't mean to. I wasn't. I waved it off quickly, anxious to change the subject before anyone brought up Alan again. Come on, let's eat. The distraction worked. We fell into debating lunch options. Still, Martin had a point. Why had Alan gotten so upset? It was me who got bumped, not him. What was going on in that head of his? I tried to shove it out of my mind. For several days, I ate with my roommates. At first, everyone kept asking questions. Then they just quietly accepted that Alan and I must have had a big falling out. It wasn't like him not to reach out. Then, one night, we went out to grab dinner at a crowded outdoor food stall. The indoor tables were packed, air conditioning and all, so we had to eat outside. I'm the type who sweats easily, and within minutes I had droplets forming on my forehead. Just as I was wiping my brow, a hand reached into view. Long fingers held out a napkin. Here, the voice said. I looked up and smiled. Thanks, Martin. No problem, he said, eyes on the menu, occasionally tossing questions back at us. I was still cooling down and asked the owner for a fan. The moment that powerful breeze hit me, I closed my eyes, blissful. But it wasn't enough. I bent down, tugged open my shirt collar, letting the air rush in. It was glorious. Nonso saw and grinned, copying my pose beside me. Soon he called out, Guys? Come try this, it's amazing. The fan wasn't large enough for 4 full-grown men, so he and Martin ended up standing behind me and Martin. Grinning proudly, I said, Well? Cool enough. Just as I was reveling in my personal wind tunnel, I sneezed, twice, hard. Someone must be talking about me, I muttered, rubbing my nose. You're probably catching a cold, Nonso said. You were sweating, and now you're blasting yourself with wind. Fair point. I sat back down reluctantly. I get sick pretty easily. Colds and fevers aren't exactly strangers to me. As I flopped into my seat, my phone buzzed. My heart skipped. A message? I opened it, only to see an ad. Buy 2 get 1 free. But why was I expecting something else? There was a feeling, just under the surface, something that wanted to rise. I panicked, stuffing a skewer into my mouth to distract myself. Waiter, another menu please. Through the noise of the street vendors and sizzling grills, a deep voice cut through like clear wine in the chaos. My spine stiffened. I turned, and locked eyes with Alan's. Those eyes were dark, but gleamed under the lights. I instinctively parted my lips to greet him, but he looked away like I was a stranger. He stared down at the menu, marked a few dishes, then sat straight on a plastic stool, back rigid. Completely out of place in this sweaty, chaotic night market. A few girls at nearby tables kept glancing over at him. I rolled my eyes. What an act. Who wears headphones to an outdoor dinner? Nonso came back from the fan and elbowed me. Isn't that Alan? I deadpanned. I saw him. Nonso gave me a skeptical look, clearly fighting his curiosity before finally blurting it out. Why aren't you guys talking? You used to be so close. Whatever the fight was about, you could work it out. I deliberately raised my voice. We're done. I've cut him off. Alan definitely heard that. He didn't deny it. Didn't even flinch. So that was it. He agreed. My chest tightened with anger. My heart thumped wildly, like it was about to leap out and smack Alan square in the face. Maybe knock some decency back into him. A few minutes passed. I cooled down. Fine. Whatever. Let it be over. I didn't need him anyway. Sensing the tension, my roommates exchanged subtle glances. Nonso suggested grabbing a few beers. I cleared my throat. Sounds good. Alan had only ever seen me drink once. That one time, I got absolutely wasted and made his life a nightmare. The moment I sobered up, he sat me down for a full lecture. He was only a year older, but with that serious tone and furrowed brows, he looked and sounded like a homeroom teacher. You have time to drink, he'd said calmly. Why not use that time to study physics? Okay. And those guys who get you to skip evening classes to drink? Stay away from them. I'd wanted to push back, but before I could say anything, he added, I wouldn't steer you wrong. Looking back, I realized Alan had slowly taken over every inch of my high school social life. He was cold, abrasive, and had zero friends. Only I stuck around. And now, after 4 years of friendship, he was the one who'd walked away. Without a reason. Not even a goodbye. The thought made me gulp down my drink faster. My roommates didn't say much. Just warned me not to overdo it. Wiping spilled beer from my jaw with the back of my hand, I muttered, I know my limits. Of course, once emotions took over, my limits vanished into thin air. Before long, I was swaying and unsteady, held upright by 2 exasperated roommates. One of them hissed, Orlando! Shut up, shut up. Nonso groaned. If I knew you were such a lightweight, I wouldn't have brought up drinking. Who says I'm a lightweight? I protested, squirming. Let go of me, I can walk on my own. The 2 exchanged a look and let go. The world immediately spun. My legs turned to jelly. I nearly dropped to my knees. Nonso caught me by the waist just in time, his voice low and sharp in my ear. Orlando, you need to go back. You're embarrassing yourself. I opened my mouth to argue, when someone yanked my arm. A second later, a surge of strength pulled me forward, and I stumbled straight into someone's chest. The chest beneath my cheek rose and fell, solid and warm. A familiar voice rumbled above my head. Alan. Maybe it was the alcohol, but my ears turned hot. Alan gripped me tightly. Thanks, but you don't need to look after him anymore. I'll take it from here. Who the hell asked you to? Rage cut through my drunken haze, sobering me a little. I tilted my head up and snapped, What are you to me, huh? Alan glanced down, jaw tense, something stormy brewing in his eyes. I stared right back. We weren't brothers. Not even friends anymore. So who was he to take care of me? I sluggishly pulled away. Let go. He didn't move. My roommate stood awkwardly nearby, watching the scene unfold. Orlando, should we help you back to the dorm? One of them asked. Alan's grip tightened, but his tone was polite to a fault. No need, he said evenly. We've got something to work out. That was all they needed to hear. Everyone knew we'd been on the outs lately. Nonso, ever the peacekeeper, gave a little wave. Alright, just be safe, yeah? We'll head out. It took me a moment to register. They ditched me. I jerked out of Alan's grasp and staggered away. My steps were wobbly, but I was determined to move forward on my own. Alan followed silently. After who knew how long, his voice came from behind me. Don't go drinking with other people again. They don't know your limits. Who was he scolding? I clenched my fists, struggling not to snap. I can do what I want. My mouth's on my face. And what do you mean, don't know their limits? He hesitated. He held you. His face was close to yours. What? Was it the alcohol messing with my brain? Or had I just forgotten how to understand English? What was he even talking about? So a brother helped me up. Big deal. Then it hit me. I snorted. What? Are you jealous someone else was looking out for me? Alan blinked. What? I sighed dramatically, like I was doing him a favor. If you want people to like you, maybe stop glaring and losing your temper over everything. He looked taken aback. I wasn't angry. Ah. I almost laughed. Then maybe work on not contradicting yourself every 2 seconds. I'm serious. I wasn't angry. I don't have time for this. I rubbed my eyes. I'm tired. But Alan wouldn't let it go. Why did you think I was angry? But was he kidding? Do you know how many times you've picked fights with me this month alone? My words tumbled out, fast and breathless. You bailed on the movie. I wipe my mouth and you get mad. I drink some water and suddenly it's a problem. Nonso didn't even care, and you, what? You just had to make it weird. I took a deep breath. Tell me once and for all, what did you mean that day when you said you'd always stand behind me? Why do you keep making me guess? Why can't you just say it plainly? Alan's fingers twitched at his sides, slowly curling into fists. I can't explain it. I was losing it. My voice rose with frustration. Are you stupid? If you can't say it, show it. His lashes trembled violently. Sensing a crack, I pressed on. Act it out. Then maybe I'll finally understand. The next day, I woke up hungover and clutching my pounding head. And then I remembered what had happened the night before. I wanted to smash a time machine just to stop myself from being so goddamn clever. Show it? Act it out. What the hell was I thinking? Groaning, I pulled the covers over my head and tried to block everything out. But memories surged back like a tidal wave. Alan hadn't said a word. He just dragged me off to the apartment he'd bought near campus. Kicked the door open. Flipped on the chandelier. You sure you want me to show you? The harsh light made me squint. Duh. So he really did stand behind me, arms sliding around my waist. For a second I thought he meant it literally. But the next second he pushed me down over a table. His movements were rough. Urgent. The grip on my waist slipped lower, fingertips brushing the inside of my thigh. Clumsy but firm. Suddenly I sobered up. Alarms blared in my head. Something dark loomed behind me, like a beast crouching for a kill. What? What are you doing? I stammered, voice cracking. Alan leaned close, breath ragged. Don't ask. I'll just show you. Pain is normal. Pain wa. Before I could finish, he shoved forward, force jolting through my whole body. My eyes flew open. My limbs, weak just seconds ago, exploded with adrenaline. I pushed off the table and shot to my feet. Alan stood there, calm as ever. That's what I meant. The air froze solid. Even an idiot would understand exactly what he'd meant by that. My head, already dizzy, started spinning harder. My best bro is gay. Stop, I mumbled, stumbling into the bathroom like a cartoon character with her limbs out of sync. I'm going to bed. We'll talk tomorrow. Steam fogged the mirror as I washed up in a daze. Where's the guest room? I asked, voice hollow. First room on the left, Alan said. He hadn't moved. Don't say anything. I slapped my hands over my ears and made a run for it. Curled up under the blanket, I bit my nail. So when Nonso bumped into me that day, this was what Alan was thinking? I spent ages building up mental defenses, but no matter how I tried, I couldn't figure out how to face him again. If he were just gay, I could support him. I'd clap him on the back and say, "We're bros, man. I support your identity. No shame. It's not a disease. It's who you are." But the problem was, he liked me. And now that it was out there, no matter what I said, things between us would never go back to how they were. It was all messed up. The moment Alan left to get breakfast, I snuck out. There had to be a better solution. Something that would comfort him and keep our friendship intact. Head pounding, I pushed open our dorm door, only to be greeted by 3 very eager pairs of eyes. Nonso spoke first. "Did you two make up?" I shook my head woodenly. "Not even close." Martin asked, "Where'd you stay last night?" I cleared my throat. "At Alan's place." Taido tilted his head. "What kind of fight did you guys even have? Your best friends? Unless he's stealing your girlfriend, anything's fixable." I muttered, voice dull. "I wish he was stealing my girlfriend." "Just tell us, man," Nonso encouraged. "We're all guys here. Maybe we can help." My reflexes kicked in. I can't explain. The second the words left my mouth, a whole string of memories I desperately wanted to forget came flooding back. I shook my head violently. From now on, those 3 words were banned. Feeling like a tangled ball of emotional yarn, I changed into my sleepwear and dragged myself into bed. "Tell the professor I'm out sick today," I mumbled. "I need to sleep this off." For the next few days, I deliberately avoided Alan. He noticed. Of course he noticed. But he didn't say anything. We cut off all shared routines. No meals, no texts, no meetings after class. I thought maybe if I just erased him from my life temporarily, I'd be able to forget what happened. But fate is a little shit. I was leaning over a freezer at the convenience store, trying to pick an ice pop, when I felt a shadow fall over me. Because of that night, even the most harmless body position triggered my fight or flight now. I tensed immediately. A hand reached past me, familiar fingers. I turned on instinct. Alan. He grabbed a bag of frozen peas, glanced at me coolly, then headed for the checkout like nothing had happened. I stood frozen in place. Why did he look so pale? His eyes, usually so sharp, looked hurt, drained. How did he look so worn out after just a few days? Something twisted in my chest, a tight, aching pressure that had no name. "Excuse me," a soft voice spoke beside me. A girl, pointing to the ice cream case. "Are you still deciding? I want the green one right in front of you." "Oh, sorry." I snapped out of it, grabbed something at random, and stepped aside. The ice melted in my mouth, cool and sweet. My eyes squinted shut in relief. Alan came to the store and didn't even buy ice cream, just an ice pack. You can't eat an ice pack. But if not for food, was it for swelling? But Alan never works out. He doesn't even walk and text at the same time. How could he get hurt? His roommates hit him? That had to be it. We hadn't been hanging out lately. He'd been stuck in the dorm. If his roommates didn't like him, maybe things had escalated. Panic surged up my throat. Forget our unresolved weirdness. If Alan was being bullied, I wasn't just gonna sit on my ass and do nothing. I'd be a shit friend if I did. I shoved the rest of the ice cream into my mouth and took off, pace quickening as my heart pounded harder. But when I got to his dorm, I hesitated. What if I burst in and made it worse? What if I screwed things up for him? What if Alan got mad that I meddled? I backed up a few steps and sat on a bench outside, wrestling with myself. By the time I'd nearly clawed my own hair into a bird's nest, Alan came out of the building, with 2 guys next to him, their arms slung over his shoulders. I frowned immediately. Alan was smiling, but it was a pale, strained smile. That settled it. I couldn't wait. I strode over, and Alan looked up, startled. As I got closer, I heard the tail end of what his roommates were saying. "You should stop pushing yourself. Go to the hospital." Yeah, don't go back tonight. Just stay. Did you hear that? They were kicking him out. My blood boiled. I shoved both guys aside. What the hell are you doing? They looked at me, confused. Don't give me that innocent act. You want to pretend now? I snapped, planting myself between them and Alan. You already messed with him, lied to him. What? Too scared to admit it now? What? The two guys looked at each other, genuinely shocked. Yeah, what do you think this is? I was gearing up to keep going when a warm hand closed around my wrist. I glanced down. It was Alan. His lips were dry and pale. He looked utterly drained. I have a fever, he whispered. My focus snapped to him. How high? 39, Alan croaked, his voice barely hanging on. Shit. I grabbed his hand and started dragging him toward the hospital. I didn't forget to shout over my shoulder, I'll deal with you guys later. Alan burned like a furnace. I scolded him as we walked. You're burning up. Why didn't you go sooner? I wasn't stalling, he mumbled. I was waiting for your reply. I froze. Reply to what? My heart slammed against my ribs. Alan's sick voice was swept up in the muggy summer air. When I came back with breakfast and you were gone. He trailed off before asking quietly, you know what I meant that day. But what about you? Do you feel the same? He stood rooted to the spot, looking straight at me, waiting for my answer. I swallowed. Let's get you to the hospital first. Okay. At the hospital, the nurse said the fever was too high. He needed fluids. The 4-room blasted air conditioning, so she suggested we pick a corner bed away from the direct airflow. I walked around and picked the spot furthest inside. After the nurse inserted the 4, Alan lay there quietly, his forehead damp with sweat. I didn't have tissues, so I stood up, ready to buy some. But as I moved, Alan's eyes fluttered open, like he'd sensed it. You're leaving? No, I gently touched the back of his hand. Just grabbing water and tissues. Okay. He nodded faintly. His cautious eyes locked on me, and something messy and heavy stirred in my chest again. I turned and all but fled the room. Alan had taken care of me through dozens of sick days. Always prepared, always gentle. I tried to recall everything he used to get for me and bought nearly all of it. Even then, I knew I'd missed a few things, but I couldn't remember what. I stepped back and he followed. No matter how I dodged him, he chased me like he had to hear my answer. Can we talk? Alan's voice was still hoarse, but his once detached eyes now burned with longing. I nodded and stuck a fever patch to his forehead, handed him an open bottle of water. He blinked. You took care of me like this when I was sick, I said plainly. Alan looked calm on the surface, but his grip on the water bottle was so tight the plastic crinkled. Veins stood out on the back of his hand. Don't ignore me, he said, almost pleading. His vulnerability set me on edge. I snapped. When did this even start? The first time I saw you. Alan didn't hesitate. Why else would I tutor only you? I fell silent. So this was a long game, huh? Setting the bait and waiting patiently. But I can't take it anymore. Alan's usual composure cracked. Why are your roommates always hanging all over you? I blinked innocently. That's just normal between guys, isn't it? His voice turned cold and deliberate. Can't you keep some distance from them? I shot back. And what exactly gives you the right to be jealous? He tossed the ball right back to me. You decide. Even friendship can feel jealousy. I didn't respond. Some answers need space to form. By the time he finished his 4, curfew had passed. I knew I'd have to crash at his place again, and for some reason, that scared me a little. Alan noticed. What? Afraid to go to my place now? I straightened up. Who's afraid? But the moment I stepped through the door, regret hit me like a brick. Alan shoved me against the wall. His face buried against my neck, his kisses rough and desperate, like he was starving and I was the only meal. I squirmed, but it was no use. How did a guy with a fever still have that much strength? And worse, I didn't hate it. In fact, I kind of liked it. My pulse was racing. My mind a mess. Something that had been buried deep in my chest finally broke through. It didn't matter if we were friends or something else. As long as Alan was by my side, it was enough. Don't lead me on, Alan muttered, snapping me out of my daze. Then came that familiar warmth, slick and hot, spreading over my collarbone. He licked at my skin, slow and burning. I shuddered. Even my fingers twitched. When did I ever lead you on? You turned your back to me earlier, Alan said, almost sulking. I exhaled, heat in my breath. Even couples need reason. I wasn't leading you on. You were totally... He froze, voice unsteady. Couples? What? Am I wrong? I asked, dead serious. Is that a problem? Alan didn't hesitate. No problem. A charged silence settled between us. Tension thick like syrup. I tilted my head to look at him. His fingers gently tilted my chin up. Then he bent his knees, pressing between my legs. He leaned in, and I, breath caught, hands clammy, instinctively shut my eyes. The kiss I expected never landed on my lips, but on my neck. I opened my eyes, confused. Alan seemed to know exactly what I was thinking. I'm sick, he murmured. Didn't want to pass it to you. Neck is safer. As if now was the time to worry about that. I gritted my teeth, grabbed him by the hair, forced his head up, and kissed him hard and fast. The next morning, both our voices were hoarse. His from the fever. Mine from yelling. After 2 days of IVs, as we were packing up to head back to campus, I slammed the table. I'm going to your dorm. Alan's lips curled up. Sure. The thought made me furious. I swear I'm gonna beat the crap out of your roommates. What for? He asked, puzzled. I gave him a smack on the arm. Don't tell me you forgot. They isolated you, lied to you, kicked you out of your dorm. Alan blinked, then said calmly, they didn't isolate me. They told you not to tell me, didn't they? No, he said, gaze shifting slightly. I lied to you. What? I made it up, he confessed like it was nothing. I just wanted you to feel bad. So you wouldn't say no to me. I clicked my tongue. So you're that kind of manipulative bastard? Alan just smiled, cryptic, unreadable. It didn't take long for me to realize what that smile meant. He wasn't just manipulative. He was a jealous bastard too. It happened a few days later. Nonso crouched to tie his shoe, lost his balance, and grabbed onto my leg. Shit, you scared me, he yelped. You okay? I laughed, but my eye twitched. Alan and I had been close since high school. We got similar scores and ended up at the same university. Now he was standing under a tree nearby, his bangs swaying slightly, hiding the deepening shadows in his eyes. I pretended not to notice and let Nonso finish tying his laces. Alan coming with you again? Nonso asked, spotting him. Yep. I raised a brow. I'll go get him. As I walked closer, I could practically feel the storm clouds around Alan. You're jealous again, I said lightly. I'm scared someone's gonna steal you away, he mumbled, voice awkward. I rolled my eyes, snorted, and pulled out my phone. Opened the dorm group chat. First, I tagged everyone. Nonso? What's up? Taito, what's going on? Martin, new announcement. I held the voice note button and said clearly. From now on, the three of you need to keep your distance. My boyfriend Alan gets jealous. The end.
Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.